Alright guys, I know it's been a little bit. I got hit by that COVID bug pretty hard, but there's been so many changes, so I kind of just had to man up, power through it, and come make hopefully a couple videos today before I conk back out. And the biggest one, of course, is the Apocalypse changes. Huge changes to his kit. Made him much more powerful in a lot of modes. Made it not change arena, which I think was everyone's top concern very much. Didn't change that at all. So that's what we're going to focus on mostly in the video. But then we'll talk briefly on War and Crucible changes as well. But we'll probably have to do dedicated videos to that because there's going to be lots of variations. We'll just speak on the overarching principles that his kit is going to have on those changes. And the type of player it's going to affect more than others. Because there's definitely winner and loser to this Apocalypse changes as far as, do you have Apocalypse? Do you have big Apocalypse or do you have small Apocalypse? There's definitely a lot to dive into, and we're going to attempt to do that. And I hope you enjoy the video. Before we go ahead and jump into footage, I guess we should quickly look over his kit. Now, I know you guys have probably done this with many people since I've been kind of laid up for a little bit, so I won't waste too much of your time. So the changes are in italics. Now, I do think some of the changes snuck in here that were not put in italics, but the big ones made it in. So when this character performs a counterattack or assist, if charge applies stun to that character and clear charge on this character, this doesn't really play effect into arena whatsoever, as we'll see in the footage. And I think there's actually concerns about when this happens. So if this happens, say it's like 2099. 2099 goes, Apocalypse retaliates, but it's still 2099's turn, and then 2099's turn end. Does he immediately clear the stun? Was he ever actually stunned? Does it maybe just stop ISO attack, which would never be the case because unless it's Kang hitting in Crucible. Anyway, that's just a mess. We'll have to see how that plays out. I didn't get too much practice time on that. The special was mostly untouched. This is like his big opening move, which leads into his ultimate, which is another big move that was also untouched. All the changes were basically put in his passive to try and protect him and make him live up to people's standards. So he still cannot be revived. The speed up of him and all allies, I think this used to just say horsemen, can only be reduced by slow. So that's a big change. Basically, it says if Apocalypse is on my team, Emma is now useless. Your Emma is useless, I should say. I've had a lot of questions about turn meter rewinds like the Eternals or Red Hulk or Archangel's passive. Yes, you can turn meter rewind the team. Whatever team Apocalypse is on, you can turn meter rewind him and the team. That does not stop that. He still removes Safeguard, but now he's going to gain Safeguard on spawn and charge. This is where he's getting that charge mechanic to do that first stun, which again, I'm just not sure. We'll reanalyze the footage once we get there. But basically what this means is if there's an Apocalypse on each side of the field, there's no Safeguard. They kind of have this in the wrong order. Like this on spawn gain Safeguard should kind of be above this one. But I digress, it doesn't matter. If two Apocalypses are on the field, there's no Safeguards. On stun, he still clears and gains health. He always did that. Lower the focus of the first enemy to take the first turn of the match by 200%. Again, this is one we're kind of unsure about. Most of my practice has been in the arena. I'm definitely going to have more War and Crucible practice as we go, and we'll definitely have dedicated videos to both of those modes. But just imagine, say, a character like Icarus. Say Icarus has 10,000 focus. His ultimate gives him 500%. So does that mean he gains 500% of 10,000 and then he loses 200% of that? Or does this mean he loses 200% on the 10,000, giving him negative percent focus or negative focus? However that would work. However they're using these numbers, right? And then he would gain 500% of that negative focus, which would then be more negative. It's interesting. We're going to test it out. Unfortunately, I'm in a war right now, so I can't do any practice testing. But we'll leave that for another video. When this character drops below 50% health for the first time, he fills the character speed bar by 50% and he heals for 30% of his max health. This, I think, was just a really lazy way to address his speed issue. It's the Doom mechanic, right? Except as a heal on top of it. It is what it is. Look, they didn't get really creative. This was kind of like throw a band-aid on it and get him back out there before people start quitting in droves. It's lazy. I thought obviously I'm biased. I thought my idea of him clearing speed up on any enemies on spawn and also preventing any kind of speed bar increase on the enemy side on spawn, I thought that was more creative and would have led to more theory craft in the arena. As you're going to see, there's not much theory craft in the arena because although The next part, this accuracy and the 100% accuracy in Arena and War, addresses the Tangled Web. It does not address the Kang. And you're going to see Kang comes in and it's still as trivial Arena as it always was. But before we get to that, let's talk about this focus. Gain 20% focus for each ally. This is a funny way of saying gain 80% focus. Though I guess with summons and possibly an enemy apocalypse in a raid mode, they can make that go from 80% to whatever they want. All the way up to, I believe, 180%, right? If he has 9 allies. So that could be a thing. And then he's going to gain 100% accuracy everywhere. Essentially, this means he cannot be blinded, and he will hit through Weaver charges. He can still be dodged with this, though, I believe. And in Arena or War rather, all of his allies will gain it too. Again, this just means Tangled Web, essentially Weaver charges, you're not a thing anymore. So you're no longer being used in Arena, and do not use your Tangled Web to attack me in War. But in Crucible, you still get my goat, you'll still beat me up, and that's because we need to sell the solution to Room 5 at a later date. So, yeah. Tangled Web no longer in the Arena, and do not use them in War if you're trying to fight an apocalypse. Let's go look at some Arena footage, and then after that we'll talk about the other game modes. Alright, to start this show off, I guess we should just show the kind of a mirror matchup, but taking the obvious advantage, which is going to be speed. Because although apocalypse changes were pretty nice, they didn't address speed whatsoever. And how you can benefit from speed, because apocalypse stops his teammates from having their speed reduced, is obviously not with Emma. It's going to be with Kang, especially his on offense tag, giving you that 10% increased speed. So I have Weaver locked here, but I do switch her out eventually for Rogue. Weaver is useless now as far as her charge mechanics go, though she does still have that stun with trauma, which is nice. Now, this mirror matchup is very easy. I even make a misplay, but it can get a little hectic, and we have even better options without using the Horseman with Apocalypse now, which I think was many people's big concern. Obviously not addressed, but Apocalypse value definitely skyrocketed from the changes. I'm not trying to downplay that whatsoever. So I go ahead here, and I definitely want to rewind this Hulk, because I don't want him to use his special. That gives the enemy Apocalypse a bunch of speed, and we don't want that. I actually hit the Apocalypse, which was probably a misplay. That makes him retaliate and get speed bar, and then I hit him again, reducing him to 50%, gives him speed bar, and then he's go ahead and use his ultimate. Now everyone is protected by his special, which is pretty much his biggest part of his kit, in my opinion. And I keep going for him. So I don't play very smart, but with that turn meter advantage that I initially got, it just keeps compounding the benefits that I get from it. So we'll go ahead and we throw the Kang ultimate on Apocalypse 2, which is completely wasted. Could have hit a vulnerable target there. Chose not to. Then I'm going to turn meter rewind. I don't know if I do Rogue or Red Hulk here. I should be going for, yeah, Red Hulk is fine. We're going to get stuck behind that Rogue taunt, but she'll be quickly dead once Apocalypse uses his ultimate, followed by his basic. Looks like that's not even going to be an option. So you can just see how the speed compounds and compounds and compounds. Throwing that at Morgan, kind of weird move. I guess she didn't die, so not that weird. But yeah. Many misplays, and still complete and utter domination. The speed bar, contrary to popular belief, can still be rewound. I have a lot of people messaging me like, it's a bug, his speed bar is still getting rewound. No, he can always be speed bar rewound. The only difference is he cannot have his speed stat reduced by a character like Emma. That line might as well say Emma cannot reduce his speed. That's all it means. So that's an example of like a pseudo mirror. Let's go look at even more efficient options, and then we could talk about the Arena as a whole. All right, so with like the hardcore mirror match out of the way, let's talk about a little bit of a variation. Now, you still want Red Hulk. The speed bar he gives to Apocalypse is gigantic. He's the fastest character in the game, just speed stat-wise, so having him along with your Kang is a great idea. He's not Mystic, so he's not powering at Morgan Le Fay. He's the obvious best horseman and possibly gives Apocalypse run for his money even still. But we're going to throw in the Eternals. Yes, the evergreen Eternals. You cannot keep these guys down. So we're going to go ahead here. Now, I do think there's a little bit of a missed setup here. Apocalypse should definitely be in the middle to try and spread it out, especially if you have a small Apocalypse. Getting him to that 50% as early as possible is not that bad idea. Not that bad of an idea. I don't even know what to say here, guys. The Eternals haven't gone yet, but between Red Hulk doing some crits and Apocalypse, even my baby Apocalypse damage, we've already taken out Morgan Le Fay. Red Hulk goes quickly after because Kang is not just about his speed stat, he's also crazy damage. And then the Eternals come in and they'll clean it up. Now, Icarus was about to finish this off. I canceled it so I could do some more testing. Cersei didn't even take a turn yet. So the turn meter rewound from Red Hulk and then more turn meter rewinds would have definitely meant that Apocalypse got to do next to nothing. So I really like the Eternal version better. It's a 10-second matchup. But now let's go look at like, well, what if we don't have Apocalypse? We can't take out those safeguards. Well, that's worth investigating. So let's go look into that. All right, so let's go look if you do not have Apocalypse. Now, I'll do an even bigger team here. The biggest difference if you don't have Apocalypse is that you're going to have to take into account Emma. Now, if the enemy has Emma with their Apocalypse and you don't have Apocalypse, it's going to be really hard to outspeed them. So this change definitely kind of the haves and the have-nots differentiated them even more between if you have Apocalypse and you don't have Apocalypse. So do the exact same thing. Again, a little bit of a misplay with Apocalypse not being in the center there, letting me rewind 3 characters instead of just 2. Because normally if Apocalypse is in the middle, I'm probably not going to hit him anymore. I think that's a misplay. I'd rather just hit 2 targets and leave Apocalypse above 50%. But I bring Archangel here because he's super quick, and if somebody dies along the way, then he's doing more turn meter rewinds, which does affect Apocalypse. And then Icarus goes, and he's going to do 2 double taps. Archangel will take out the enemy Archangel, and now even my Cersei is going to go before the Apocalypse did. So even if Archangel didn't finish off that enemy Archangel, my Cersei would have. And then again, it's just completely over. So the damage from Kang, the speed from Kang, completely nullifying what Apocalypse brings. Now, can you switch that up? Yeah, you could bring in, I think it's Wong gives defense up to Morgan. So that would be a big change if you had Wong in there instead of Archangel. That would protect your Morgan far better if the enemy doesn't have Apocalypse. If the enemy does have Apocalypse, well, the Eternals will just flip that, right? And all you're losing when Red Hulk goes first, you're losing those offense downs from the Apocalypse doing his negative focus to the first enemy to attack. You could also use that to your advantage as well. So if you were to rewind the enemy Red Hulk and say make Morgan go first. Now Morgan, because you have Apocalypse on your team, also has reduced focus. Now she doesn't land any of her stuff on those Eternals with that minus 200 focus. And then you're kind of just laughing. So I really don't think Apocalypse changed anything for the arena meta, but regardless of that, I'll go ahead and I'll show you what my preferred arena defense is right now, given the limited testing I've been able to do so. All right, so this is my preferred arena defense right now, though I know this doesn't hold up at all. The reason I like this better than any kind of Tangled Web is because most of the people around me do have Apocalypse, so she's kind of useless at this point with all of her charges being negated. As far as putting in like Emma, again, most of the people have Apocalypse, so to me, she doesn't hold much value. People will just use their Apocalypse. But what I do like, the Dormammu, is those revive charges, and I'm kind of using it as a bait. So I have 2 of the Horsemen that will have revives on one side, and I have Red Hulk, who I think is the most valuable on the other side. So this is kind of baiting people to use their Red Hulk special on maybe my Morgan, taking off those revives, hurting my Apocalypse. This is another reason why Apocalypse is in the middle. Maybe that pushes him to yellow, gets him to go a bit faster. But if the person does take that bait, then my Red Hulk should go pretty quickly after that, and he should be able to do a turn meter rewind, giving my Apocalypse more speed, and then popping off there too. Mind you, in practice, this just won't play out that way. Because if the opponent has Kang and Apocalypse and Red Hulk on one team, which is going to be kind of the trifecta of the arena going forward, well, enemy Red Hulk goes first, then enemy Apocalypse goes first. He can ability block my Red Hulk, and then it all falls apart anyway. What I'm trying to say is there's no good way to do arena defense anymore, just like there was no good way to do it before. The bigger power levels you have can kind of help out a bit. Dormammu, I feel, with the revives, I mean, you know, if he takes the revive off just my Red Hulk, then at least the other 2 can get a revive off. If he takes a revive off those 2, then at least my Red Hulk can get a revive off. Maybe they start landing some abilities. Maybe it goes my way. I don't think it would, though. Nothing's changed in the arena. The arena is still the offensive glass cannon meta. The only change is it's now Apocalypse and not Weaver. And honestly, if you don't have Apocalypse, you can still beat it just by outspeeding it with Eternals. So this change was great for Eternals in Arena. Woohoo! But let's go talk about the other changes to Apocalypse that definitely, as my phone dies, definitely impacted other modes in a very big way. After poo-pooing on the arena changes, we should talk about the other modes, because I do think these are going to be some big changes. With the extra nerf to Darkhold and the extra buff to Wakanda, I don't think you'll see that much anymore. that matchup anymore. And with the other teams that are mostly on defense, we're going to have this new Tangled Web Eternal team on defense. Darkhold's not going to touch that at all. The Unlimited team, they're going to struggle even more now that Darkhold got nerfed. Gamma, yeah, Darkhold will probably still beat Gamma, but there's lots of teams that beat Gamma. And then the other teams, it just kind of starts feeling like a waste, whereas Darkhold on defense is a pretty good efficiency suck, even if they're not doing as much damage or as much surviving, I guess, as they used to do. And I think Apocalypse will help fix that a little bit, that nerf. But mostly, this is just to kind of bait out the enemy's Apocalypse. So if you put this on defense, then the enemy might be kind of willing to use their Apocalypse on you here. Get that safeguard off, maybe get a quick efficiency kill there, and then they have to deal with your unlimited X-Men the way they used to be doing it. So I do think Apocalypse with Darkhold will start seeing its way onto the Crucible defense, and I think it could be a little bit of a headache. I don't think it's going to, all of a sudden, it gets 3 wins and the opponent's not clearing you. No, I think it's just going to be like another Infinity Watch where it takes really big efficiency, and if they try and cheap out and not use their Apocalypse on you, they could get a loss. They absolutely could. With Apocalypse, if he reaches that special before any of the Darkhold members die, it's scary. It's very scary. In War, I think, is where the biggest changes are going to happen. Again, with Darkhold. Now, Darkhold is not nerfed in War, and one of the main teams that takes them out is that Underworld team. Well, that Underworld team does not have trauma and does not have the ability to strip Safeguard. So what's going to happen is they could very easily push Apocalypse with the Taskmaster offense up ultimate, especially if you have a small Apocalypse, and then he's going to go before Morgan Le Fay, because you are actively turn meter rewinding the Morgan Le Fay with those Mr. Negative attacks. Now you can maybe try and work around that by hitting the Apocalypse to give him speed up, but that doesn't seem like it would help very much either. And no, actually, by that time, you would almost have to use Mr. Negative's special on Apocalypse, but then he's going to use his ability, and then Morgan Le Fay is going to have immunity. No, I see no way of making that matchup super duper easy if you are possibly going to push that Apocalypse with the Taskmaster ultimate. It's going to be a mess. I don't think the Underworld team is going to work on Darkhold anymore, which means you're going to have to default to, say, War Dogs. Now, War Dogs has a lot of splash damage, and I can see them having similar issues as to the Underworld team, but I think that's going to be the change. I think War Dogs have been criminally underused, and they're going to end up here, which means Underworld probably ends up on defense, which will be another issue in and of itself to deal with. The other option is it could be with Gamma. I don't want to spend too much time because there's so much that goes into this. It would replace Abomination. Abomination and Brawn both give 30% life. That 30% life is huge, and you would almost want to replace Hulk or She-Hulk, but you can't because the taunt from Hulk is that wall that protects Red Hulk, and all of a sudden he's ulting and you're dead. And then She-Hulk is throwing those debuffs back, actively counteracting the Undying team. So you definitely want her there too. And then Apocalypse comes in and he kind of counteracts the one team that can one-shot the Gamma, which is that Dorm, Undying, Tangled Web team. Like we talked about in his kit, Apocalypse is giving 100% accuracy to his entire team in Arena and War, which is crazy. So I could see that being the thing, though I do think this would not change much for people that are doing a burn attack. I think you would still do a burn attack. You need to pull the Red Hulk special, ultimate, and second special. Because if he's opening up that Red Hulk, if he's opening up with special on the second attack, he's giving that speed bar to Apocalypse. That will be really, really bad news for you. So I do think we might have to fine-tune that sack. But we'll find a sacrificial team that will pull that second Red Hulk special, and then you'll come in here with Eternals, Undying, Dorm, and it'll be just like it used to be. So I don't think this Gamma team is super advised. I think it's going to default to the Darkhold team. And then you have the Heroes for Hire version. Look, Heroes for Hire suck, and I would not be surprised if Apocalypse makes it suck more. I don't want to dive into it because I don't want to suggest it. I'll practice it. Hopefully it sucks. End of story. I hate Heroes for Hire. Anyway, guys, that's it for my take on the Apocalypse changes. Nothing in Arena has changed at all. At all. Crucible, we might find some annoying teams put on defense. And in War, I think this Darkhold with Apocalypse is going to be the big one that pops up. But we'll find a way to handle it like we find a way to handle everything. But at the end of the day, he's a lot better on offense now. And that's cool. So if you're not going to put him on defense, he's going to be really good on offense. And if you don't have to mirror match up him, a lot of the other matchups are going to be even easier. So I think it was a net positive on the Apocalypse changes. Call me a glasses half full guy. Tell me COVID is rotting my brain, making me look happy. Look at the bright side. I don't know. I'm going back to bed. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys.
That's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Stay happy, healthy, have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.